All right, we are recording. Thank you for attending Worldwide Slot Car Chat number 32. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. We've got many of our usuals, and I'm sure we'll get some more. We've got Dennis and John and Mr. Pertucci, and Martin is on again. And looks like we've got Ray is on, and Portals is on. I don't think he's been on before. And we're getting Brian in. Let me let him in. John, I'm going to make you co-host again, so you can help. Gosh darn it, stop moving around. Co-host. There you go. So if you see somebody join in, go ahead and admit them if you recognize them. So we do have a couple of topic suggestions, but does anybody have any show and tell or questions or anything? Got any progress on those chassis, Dennis, or for Russ?
Actually, no further progress on the work that I was doing on the chassis, but there is news about those, and that is that Alan Schwartz, who's been on these calls before, Ikea Martini out of Baltimore, he has a whole box of spare parts for those cars. And so he's sending me 2 armatures and some wheel and tire assemblies and another driver. So we'll be able to restore those cars right back to their original. The drivers are going to look pretty shoddy by comparison to the fantastic paint that's on the bodies now, but we will have all of the right pieces to put on the cars. So that's exciting. Those things are on their way. So I'll be able to get those motors to actually run again, which is the best part.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Then.
It's pity Russell's not on. I was hoping to tell him that this morning.
Well, he'll find out later.
Yeah.
or if he comes on later.
Yeah, I'll email him as soon as when I'm done with this.
Cool. Perfect. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about or show and tell before I dip into the topic bucket? Looks like Chris is coming on. Mr. The Unicorn, do you want to go ahead and bring up your topic?
Yeah, had my car stored for a while and I took one of my Tiranas out the other day, and I noticed that it's got flat spots on its tires and that because of the way it was sitting on the base. So I was just wondering if there's any possible way of eliminating that, if possible, without changing the tires.
I know we've got some tire experts on here. Before we started the recording, we kind of threw some ideas out there. But Chris or Dennis, do you guys have any suggestions for unflat spotting without changing a tire?
I think the only way to do that is to grind it down until there's no flat spot left. And that may be too far to give you clearance. I don't know of any other way. Chris may.
Sorry, I just came in sort of halfway through. What tires are we talking about here? On what?
Stock Scalex rubber by the sounds of it.
Okay.
Yeah, they feel like a soft compound.
So they're like right out of the package on the car, stock stuff?
Yeah, stock.
Well, you got to grind them.
I was wondering if putting a little oil on might help bring that less flat.
It might help it bring it less flat. So from 80% flat to 85, it's just, yes, it might swell the tire a little bit. You can, do you normally run with your stock tires?
Yeah, I usually run everything stock. It's just easier for me that way.
Yeah. Gluing them on and then, turning them down a bit. Again, depending on the size of the tire, you may, and the size of the flat spot, as Dennis said, you might end up needing to true too much where the tires are not of a good enough diameter for you. Buy new ones or replace them with urethanes or rubber or silicone or something like that.
What I've been doing lately, well, just recently in that, I've pretty much been cutting up a few cardboard strips and just sticking them under the axles when they're sitting in their cases, just to get the rear wheels off the floor so it doesn't any of them.
Yeah, no, that's a
That's a good thing to do.
yeah, or either, you know, I mean, less work is just storing the car on its side so the tires don't touch the ground. But you know, lots of bad stories. Fly used to have a hideous reputation of the tires basically melting into goo after a while and flat spotting and stuff like that. But you know, such is life.
Yeah, prevention is the best cure. And
Yeah,
then,
and although sometimes even with prevention, to Chris's point, the tires will either like get really goopy or get so amazingly hard that you run it around the track and it's like they're on plastic discs.
Yeah.
yeah, if you're not having to replace the tire for some other reason, you're going to need to grind it down a little bit, most likely, and hopefully that's not too much that it doesn't run on the track anymore, or
Yeah.
you know, shorts or sticks or whatever, for you know, because there's not enough tire, in which case you're replacing it anyways. So I mean, you might as well rub a little oil into it and see what happens.
Yeah, or suntan lotion.
Suntan lotion, pretty much. Yeah, peppermint oil, you know, there's a variety of tire treatments you can use to help you know, try to fluff it up a little bit. But if that doesn't work, then sand it down a little bit, or you know, if it's a flat spot's not too bad, just run it. Run it with a flat spot.
It'll bounce. Do you run with magnets or not?
Magnets, yeah.
Okay, so when you are, if you're going to sand them down, remember that that's going to get the magnet closer to the track. So it may handle better, but it may also get to a point where the drag is so much that it slows the car.
And it heats up the motor and causes other problems. It's going to be a downhill from there if you have to take off.
Yeah.
If you are fortunate enough that you've elevated the car and they do get all hard, it's like driving in the rain. So there's a plus.
Or a mud rally or ice rally.
Yeah.
I gotta
That would be
go
fine
in.
if it was one of the rally cars, but it's one of the race cars.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I gotta go answer the phone, guys. I gotta
Bye.
2 minutes. So if you don't ask me any questions until I come back on.
We'll try.
But.
All right.
All
So
right.
what are we going to do to him when he comes back? We've got to think of
Okay,
something
everybody.
now quickly.
Okay, here's the story.
Oh, Petrucci has something to say.
Go ahead, Petrucci.
I can still hear you.
Damn, forward the plot.
Go ahead, Petrucci.
Talking about the tyres, you can store your cars in one of these. It comes with a little gadget like that.
You have to hold it up for us.
Oh. Where's the camera? Get the camera over it. Over.
Oh yeah, pull it back towards yourself, please. Oh, there you go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Perfect. Right there.
Oh yeah. It's like a
They're
setup
called
plate, except it's got,
camshells. They cost £2, and you can store your cars in them, and it keeps the tires off up in the air.
basically like a manufactured version of the cardboard strip that he was using.
I've got loads of them.
You said up even higher.
They're from Slotted, right?
Yeah, slot it. Keeps
There
the
you go.
cars up. You get little bits of foam in there as well.
There's another option. Pretty much anything to get the tires up off the surface that they're flat spotting on. Hey,
I
Martin.
imagine you can just get those from any sort of online place.
Yeah,
Any
I
stock-
bought
any
these from
stock is
got
fine.
these from Pendale's.
And those,
Oh, yeah?
or top
Top
slots,
slots and chains to them as well.
or armchair racer.
Or use the cardboard and take your money and buy new tires.
There you go. All right. Does anybody have any other topics they want to bring up before I dig into my topic bin? Seeing none.
I've got one more topic I want to ask
for
a
it.
question about.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm trying to get into the scratch build. I bought one of these.
Oh, a setup plate?
Yeah, it's a chassis jig.
Soldering jig. Okay.
That's a precision slot car soldering jig.
Yeah, they
Right.
come with no pins.
That's interesting. I guess there's two ways to buy that. You either buy it with all the pins and the axles and the slugs, or you just buy the plate on its own.
You may have to slice up. Yeah, you may have to slice up some piano wire to either make your own pins or purchase them.
Yeah, if you could, preferably if you can find some stainless steel wire, that would be preferable to piano wire, because the piano wire rusts really badly when you're using acid flux. So I know K&S do make stainless steel wire. You'd need some in 1/16 of an inch diameter and some in 3/32 diameter. There may be other places that will sell it too.
I was
cut them
looking
up
on
into
that
1/2
site.
inch or so 3/4 inch lengths.
Yeah, I've got a long way to go yet, so that's the start. I'll get the rest of the stuff.
Well, no, that's great. I got news for you though. It will never look that pristine again.
I know that. I know. I bought one of these as well. I've seen you using one of these,
Pull it back.
like the loads of holes in.
Hold it in front of your face.
Is that the ceramic plate that you've got with the holes? Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's work too.
I'm getting there, you know, it's just a matter of time.
Talking about those clamshells, they're available here in the States at Electric Dreams as well. They're $3.99 each.
Yeah, they're worth buying because, you know, I keep when I'm repairing cars, I put the parts and everything in there and keep them all together. Otherwise, I can't find anything.
That's a good idea.
That's a very good idea. Yeah, it's almost like a tray that a mechanic would use for screws and bolts and stuff.
It's like sliding a part tray under your car and just letting all the nuts and bolts drop down.
And then trying to work out afterwards which one goes where.
Yep.
Put it all back together.
Wrong one.
Exactly. That's what camera phones are for.
Take a picture first and then take it out. All right. Thanks for sharing, Mr. Pertucci.
I've got drawers here full of parts.
Don't we all?
When you want something, you never find it.
That too. Is it in this bin of parts? Nope. Is it in this bin of parts?
I've found that's a sign of age. As you get older, your drawers fill with parts.
But talking about the camshells, I've been trying to get some more, but every time I go on site, on the thing, they're sold out.
Here's what you do. Get yourself a vacuum forming machine. Or a 3D printer.
I was going to say,
Got
could
a
you
3D
3D printer.
Yeah.
It's over the back there.
Yeah, that's a good thing about 3D printing. You can spend thousands of dollars to make a 50-cent whistle.
Exactly. Right. But you made it. So it's worth it.
I see Kelly dropped off. I was going to say to him something about scratch building, and I was thinking about this the other day, that you know, I make a lot of stuff in brass, including all those little brackets and things that I make. And I thought to myself, why the heck don't I 3D print those motor brackets and then use those in a plastic chassis, right? If you wanted to make either plastic or a popsicle stick chassis or something like that, you could print a 3D bracket that would be plenty strong enough for those kind of cars in 1/32 scale, small ones that don't have a lot of weight and don't have a lot of power. I'm actually going to try it.
He doesn't need any more reasons to get a 3D printer. He's trying to avoid it because he knows that he doesn't want to have more things to do.
Who are you talking about, John?
Kelly.
Oh, Kelly. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Although I have tried to cast resin chassis bits.
Yeah.
And they're okay.
Yep.
But
George Turner in the UK does that too. I mean, or he provides a cast chassis with his bodies, and some of those they actually look pretty nice. I mean,
Yeah, and what's really interesting too is it depending on the type of resin you're using. Like there is a resin called Task 2 that we use for our wheels that basically has a tensile strength of aluminum if you cast it properly, and you have to cast it at about 55 to 60 psi because it gets really nice and dense, and you can machine it, you can drill it. That's why we machine the little grub screw, I guess, things in the wheels, and that's why they hold, is because of the chemistry is amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of resin, I'm making things with my resin printer successfully now, so that's always nice. It's become fun to use rather than an annoyance.
Did you figure out what the issues were, Greg?
I'm not entirely sure, but I think a combination of ambient temperature, because the resin doesn't cure as well at, if it's a little bit too low, so it's got to be pre-warmed. And then just making sure everything is nice and clean and level, and you got your settings right and stuff like that. But yeah, I've gotten some successful things out of it, and I got my fancy washing and curing station, which takes a lot of the mess out of it. Just pull it off the printer, stick it in the washer. I don't even put gloves on, so it's nice.
Now, you sure you didn't pass over a Ferrari logo and do a little sort of ceremony or anything? Maybe that helped.
And I burnt some sage and stuff like that. No, but one of these days I'll probably print some figures and show you guys what they look like. If you want, I can show you. I printed a teeny weeny little dragon just to prove that it could be teeny weeny, and it's pretty impressive. You want me to show it? Okay, I'll show it. Give me a minute to find it. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So resin, that means the definition must be pretty good then.
It's very, very good. Yeah, that's the main reason to get it is the detail that you can achieve from it.
With that type of detail, does it take a lot longer to print than another type of printing would take?
Surprisingly, it can be faster than my other printer, because the technology is such that it's basically it's exposing an entire layer at once, right? So on a filament printer, it's basically squirting out and drawing it, but on it, it's just exposing a whole layer at once. So you can fill the platform with stuff, and it all prints at the same time based on how tall it is. It's the height of the object that determines how long it takes. This little guy here, let me get the share going. Come on, share this. Share. Okay, can you see that little dragon?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so those are my fingers.
Cool.
So that probably took a half an hour or something like that. And to get that kind of a detail on the filament printer, it has to print at very thin layers and very slowly. So, and it still wouldn't have been that detailed because the nozzle just isn't small enough to get such intricate little shapes. It can do pretty good. Filament printers can do a pretty good job, but they can't do this just yet.
Well, I mean, if it looks that good in a photo, it must look spectacular, like in person.
Yeah, and that's not even a very good picture. It's kind of a little blurry because I was zoomed way in, so it wasn't using all the focal abilities of the camera. But yeah,
right.
It's fun, and I'll be posting. I'll be printing some people at some point. Not very many because I don't want to paint them and I don't want to have a whole bunch of gray people standing around. I found a model of the Stig though, so I'm definitely going to print the Stig and have him standing in judgment around my track. But yeah, other than that, well, unless I find somebody or get the bug to hand paint these things, I'm probably not going to print a whole lot of people.
Oh, painting is actually if you set up a little bit of an assembly line, it's not that bad. I can show you.
I understand what's involved, and I don't want to do it. Sorry.
Well, there's perhaps a topic for another discussion. I can take you through how.
There we go. Next week is chassis building. What's that?
Would that printer be better for printing car bodies rather than?
Yes.
because it's a lot smoother. And
Yeah, and the resin is a lot easier to sand, so you don't got to prime it and sand it and prime it and sand it and fill it and sand it. The resin itself sands very nicely, so any imperfections are very easy to get rid of from directly off of the print, just like resin, just like John's cast
I'll
resin.
throw the old printers out and start getting the new ones in.
I mean, it's a different technology, right? So the other kind that make the lines that you got to cover up are still out there and still do a good job. But if you're doing car body, if you're doing something that needs to be smooth, then or very, very high detailed, then resin is the way to go. It's just messy and stinky and.
Now, just to stay on top of it, the files that you're using to print that, can you test print in another sort of less expensive way to make sure that everything works before you go into resin, or no?
No, because the technology is so different that printing on other technology is, I mean, if you're just verifying the integrity of the model, you can do that looking at it on your computer. You don't need to print it on a filament printer and then print it on a resin printer, because it's.
Sorry, it's a neophyte question. I'm so sorry.
What's the weight like compared to the other 3D printers?
The weight of the printed object?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how large the object is and whether or not you have it hollow or solid. But I would say roughly equivalent. The
base materials are similar density, is it?
Similar density, not the same. Basically a 1 kilogram jug of resin is about yay big around and yay tall. If I were to melt a kilogram of filament into a jug, it would probably be about that size of a jug, maybe a little bit bigger. So usually what people do with resin printing is when it's a large object, then they use the software to hollow out the object so it's not solid, because that's a lot of material, and the material is more expensive than filament is. Like a 1 kilogram bottle of resin is more like 30 plus, whereas a 1 kilogram spool is 20 or less in most cases. But you don't want to just waste needlessly, just like you don't want to on a filament printers, just to have a bunch of material inside that you don't need to have there. So on resin printers, what they usually do is make it entirely hollow, and then you have to put a drain hole in, because the process is such that even if it's hollow, you're going to trap material inside it eventually. And so what they do is you make it hollow, so it's basically just printing a thick perimeter of your object the whole time. And then you have drain holes somewhere inconspicuous or easy to plug. And then when it's done printing, then you let the resin drain out from the drain holes before you cure it. And that's also, it takes, the thicker it is, the longer it takes to cure. And if you have an object that's fairly sizable and completely solid, then it might not ever fully cure. It'll take months to fully cure all the way to the inside. So there's no reason to have a large object be solid anyways. So they make it hollow and put drain holes in, so you're not wasting material.
So Greg, for a 1/32 scale figure, would you do it solid or hollow?
I would do that solid. The little dragon I printed solid. There's no, for that size, there's no big benefit, unless you're really pinching pennies and want to save every drop of resin. I don't see a whole lot of benefit to that. And most of your hollowing is, you still want a good 2 or 3 millimeters, I would imagine, of wall. So on a 1/32 scale figure, the only hollow bit is going to be like in the body and maybe a little bit in the head. So not going to be a big savings. I haven't tried one yet though, so I don't know.
So what software would you have to use to draw your car body on?
So it depends on the printer you get, but a lot of the resin printers use the same hardware, and so the same firmware, and so the same software that you're using to generate the file. It's Chitu or Chitu or something like that. CHITU is the firmware and hardware that's used, and then the software that I use on my computer is called Chitu Box, and so it has the things that you need to hollow it out and put drain holes in and stuff like that. So you basically you run the software, put your model in there, tell it to be supported where it needs to be supported, and hollow it out if you need to, and make a hole if you need to, and then you tell it to slice it, and then you save the file, plug your USB into the machine, and hit print, and then cross your fingers.
Do you start with a .stl file the same way as you would with a filament printer?
Yeah, I was informed not too long ago by my son that STL actually stands for stereolithography file. Okay. So it's actually, stereolithography is essentially the first resin printing. That's the one that uses a laser and a mirror to cure the resin. But even with MSLA and DLP, which is what these are, it's still the same file that the filament printers use. They basically all just, because that's all it needs to be is the outside of a solid object is all you need for 3D printing. So they've stuck with that file type.
Dennis, if you're comfortable with using a regular 3D printer, your learning curve with a resin printer would be fairly shallow. The slicer program is very similar. I mean, there's some subtle differences, but man, if you can use a filament printer, you would probably take to a resin printer pretty easily, pretty quickly. And like Greg said, the results on something like a body, tremendous. Personally, I wouldn't do chassis because of the cost of the resin. It's at least double what a filament printer will run you. But for doing the bodies, the amount of work and the amount of detail you can get, phenomenal. Even these resin printers, they're in the $200 range. They're not that expensive. They're down there with filaments, and they're at least twice the resolution of your filament printers.
Brian, do you have both kinds?
I do not, but I've been doing a lot of looking and watching a lot of videos.
So let me tell you, so you have a filament printer or you have a resin printer?
I have an Ender 3 Pro.
Okay, so I'm going to defy what you said, and that the learning curve between a filament printer and a resin printer is entirely different. The only thing that's similar is that you're using a slicer. Supports work entirely different. The printing technology is so different that everything you know from your filament printing does not apply to resin printing. I would say the only thing that applies from filament to resin is the importance of your first layer on a filament printer and its adhesion to the bed is of equal importance on a resin printer and its adhesion to the print surface. The difference between resin and filament, at least with MSLA, DLP, like Elegoo and the cheap ones that we're talking about, is every time the print bed comes down to cure a layer, that layer of resin is curing to both the print bed or the print and the FEP sheet that's separating the resin from the screen. So you're always fighting a battle of adhesion between the FEP and the bed. And if at any point the adhesion to the FEP is stronger than the bed, the print's going to lose and it's going to stick to the FEP and you're going to have a failure. Whereas on filament printing, you're just hoping the thing doesn't get knocked off by the printer. The print head isn't actually pulling the print off of the bed, it's just kind of touching it. Whereas on a resin printer, it's literally pulling, there are two surfaces with cured resin between them pulling against each other. So
okay, I get that. My reference was a little bit more towards
esoteric
file types and how it's, I mean, he's using the files he already has, STL files he already has for bodies would work. No changes need to be made. Correct. And the Chitu box is just the slicer program. And yeah, the supports look different and they're handled a little different. But I mean, as far as the actual dealing with files, his learning curve would be fairly shallow. There's not a lot to learn there. A little bit in the slicer, like you said. But
I got enough right now just trying to get used to my Ender 5 Pro and all the software attached to that and the
Well, if you would quit breaking it, it would probably work better for you. You'd learn faster.
And I've got this, and I'm also learning, because I never did it, believe it or not, learned to use a 3D CAD program. So I'm busy with that right now too.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right that the file type is the same, and you're using a slicing program.
And that doesn't bug me, but right now I really couldn't justify having both a filament and a resin printer. For a starter,
it's just a matter of finding the justification, really.
How big are they? Are they
that's
physically
that's
about
the other
same
thing
size?
is that $200 price point is not going to give you the same build area as your Ender 3. To get an Ender 3 size build area in a resin printer, you're going to be spending $800 to $1,000 easy.
For a slot car body, you don't need a huge build volume because you print them at an angle.
So as I was saying, the print area for the printer that I have is about the size of a slot car body, depending on the slot car. Bigger slot cars, you're not going to get a Porsche 911 GT1 into that, or a new Ford GT, but you're going to get Testarossas and things like that into that.
Oh man, and I was going to do sub 63 Galaxies, right?
But you can also, like he was saying, you can also print them out at an angle. So I'm talking about just if the car is on the plate, then if it's small enough, you can put it in there. But if it's too big, then you're basically, a lot of times you're printing at an angle anyways, just because supporting it makes for a cleaner print. So you've got your object just kind of floating in space, and it's got all these spiky support systems that grow from the build plate all upside down. But yeah, if you're spending $200 on a resin printer, you're going to get a build area that's about that big and maybe about that tall.
So that would be good for figures then, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's super popular for tabletop gamers. The most thing that you're going to see for resin printing is little figurines, little D&D figures. There's like a bajillion little figurines, and so that's half the reason that I went ahead and got this. I got it used from a friend, so I know it worked well because he was printing all sorts of wonderful things with it.
Now you could also, if you wanted to, do multi-paneled bodies that could stitch together, right? You do fenders, hoods.
Yeah, you can still make things. You can still make things in pieces, but with a little clever orientating, I could probably fit most 1/32 scale slot car bodies on my printer. I just haven't tried it yet. I'm sure it's in my future.
Greg, have you printed a lot of slot car bodies with your filament printer?
No, because I'm not really interested in the post-processing. I printed one slot car body, and for that I embraced the layers, and I set like a layer height of like 0.3 or something like that. I just said screw it. I don't care about the layers in it. Yeah,
I did a 356. It turned out okay, but I did a body of my own, and the reason I asked is I did a body of my own, and I designed it where the back end of the car is flat. So I literally printed the car standing straight up and used the trees system of support. Have you used trees yet? Have you tried that? I mean, I think up until Cura 4.7, it was an experimental, so it didn't show up as a default where you could choose trees, but in the 4.7.1 it is. Talk about clean. The inside of that slot car body came out as clean as the outside of that slot car body. It was amazing. And it knocked about 3 hours off the print because the tree support, there is so much less of it that it, well, here, let me see.
Yeah, let me turn on sharing.
Well, I'm just going to
screen or just show it.
No, I just got it on a video.
Okay.
Let's see. How do I turn this thing around? See, actually in my ugly mug.
Just hold it in front of your face there.
See how smooth?
Oh, wow.
That's nice.
Inside is just as smooth. Well, here, this one might actually look better. It's a blue one.
That looks like a McKee or something. It's really kind of cool.
This is something I drew up, but you can see how clean and smooth it makes the inside of that. It took me all of 5 seconds to get the support material out of there.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely the way to print. If you have a file that can print that way, either with supports or
But see,
with tree supports.
I
Or...
could literally print it standing straight up.
Yep. Yeah, because that way you're getting around the whole layers turning into a topographical map situation, because it's able to do nice shapely curves on the X and Y. Just can't do it on the Z.
And it drastically reduced the print time.
Yeah.
Brian, you have the makings of a spec series there.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a few. I have been working on some chassis for it. It's funny though, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed, those cars make a different sound when they run. They have a very hollow, funny ring to them that takes a little getting used to, but yeah, I'm still playing with them.
Are you going to share those files on Thingiverse or anything?
Once I get them where I have, right now I don't have any detail on them at all. You know, I want to add
Detail.
some vents, you know, just a few little odds and pieces, but yeah, I'll definitely share them. Absolutely.
Looks like a Thingy. I would upload them now and then
Nope.
upload high detail ones later.
It was Thingy inspired. The Thingies are what kind of got me. I mean, I have basic skills. All that was done in Tinkercad.
Nice. That's
So,
pretty impressive for Tinkercad.
That's kind of where the Thingies kind of inspired that, if you will.
Cool. Yeah, I look forward to seeing those available. Awesome. Anybody else have any printer questions, or should we find another topic?
I was just going to say, Brian, you'd put a nice brass chassis under that. It'd be pretty cool.
There you go.
Why do brass when I can print one?
That too.
I just thought it would be nice that you mix the old school with the new school. You know, there's an homage to the entire sort of.
These guys,
There's a reason
they're
it's old
so
school.
scared
and
of
then
soldering irons.
There's a reason that's old school, and there's a reason there's new school.
That's true.
I don't think we're scared of soldering irons. We just want to use the tools we have. You know, 3D printers make chassis too.
Yeah. There's a whole proxy coming up for 3D printers.
Oh, yeah?
Paul Miller, Shappy Man, on
okay.
Home Racing World. He's getting that going. Him and Steve Hendrickson, I think. They're both trying to get that up and going, and the idea is to get everybody that has a printer to start printing, make a body, make a chassis. You've got to do your own body, your own chassis, your own guide. Those three, right? You can use a commercial pod, and you know, and other bits and pieces. But those three pieces, preferably your own interior as well. But minimum guide, chassis, and body have to be 3D printed by you yourself. So,
do they have to be designed by you, or can you print somebody else's?
No, you can print somebody else's, but it just has to be printed by you.
Sure. Cool.
So,
I'll have to find that.
Yeah, it's on Home Racing World somewhere. He's got something about a 3D print proxy.
I think
And
I
it's
remember
all
somebody
for
mentioning it at some
all
point.
for Can-Am cars. Yeah,
Yeah.
Groups, Can-Ams and Group 7s, which is right up Steve Hendrickson and Paul Miller's right up their alley, because that's about all they ever do. Right up my alley too, because I love Can-Am cars. So yeah,
But your printer's
I'm going to
not
print
working.
one of his bodies, and then I'm going to do my own chassis. My guide is already done, so you know, going along.
Cool.
Part of why I got the 3D CAD software, so that I can get going on that.
What CAD are you using?
I'm using a thing called a Libre Atom 3D. It's you have to buy it. It's not free, but it is a little bit more engineering type CAD than Tinkercad or SketchUp or one of those.
Did you look at Fusion 360?
I didn't.
Oh.
I found this particular one and I downloaded its 29-day free trial, and I started using it, and I liked it, and I just spent the money.
Hey, I mean, if it
was
works for you, that's the
120,
important thing.
It was $129. It wasn't that bad. And
is that a long license, or is it a yearly?
That's a permanent license.
Permanent license. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah.
Download it onto your computer. Then there's an upgrade fee after that once a year. But
okay, to get upgraded versions.
Yeah, if you want upgraded versions, like $30 a year for 4 to 5 upgrades. That's not too bad. And I'll see how it goes.
Yeah, hopefully it does everything you need it to do.
It certainly looks like it right now. The nice part about it is that it works the way that my wife remembers using AutoCAD and all the other CAD programs that she used, and so I've got an instructor in the house who's actually very keen on helping me. So she grabs me around, she pulls me out of my garage around 5 in the afternoon, sets me down at the dining room table with her computer with the free 29-day trial on it, and mine with a 30-day trial on it, and we go through it. And you know, she tries to draw what I'm trying to draw, and she does it her way, and I do it my way. And then she explains to me why her way is better than my way.
Yeah, Dennis, I got news for you. Just say yes.
Oh yeah,
Always
when in doubt, say yes, dear. I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of it. No, she's really good at it. And so yeah, I found out very quickly that her way was a lot better, a lot more accurate too. Yeah. Anyway, so it's fun.
I'm a big fan of Fusion 360. It's basically free to anybody in education or who's just a hobbyist or a very small business. You basically don't have to pay for it unless you're actually making, you know, a living off of what you're designing with it. So it's basically free, and it is the engineering type of
style,
CAD, designing, as opposed to like Mesh Mixer, which is more for organic, shapes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I draw a picture using CAD tools, dimensionally and shapes and things, and then I extrude them and cut them and fillet them and chamfer them and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a good program. It's pretty popular with a lot of the functional object designing crowd.
I'll try that sometime. Sounds good. Thank you.
It might be very similar.
I'll have a look. It'd be interesting.
When I was looking around at CAD things, basically the differences that I saw were engineering style or organic modeling, like clay modeling style, and so with your engineering style, you've got, they're all very, very, very similar. So moving from one to the other, if you've already got your head around something like what you're talking about, and moving, using Fusion 360 is just a matter of learning where those tools are, not so much as how those tools work or why you would use those tools.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I've got that software as well.
The Libre or the Fusion?
Fusion 360. But I'm having trouble trying to understand it. What do? You do the drawing first and your measurements, then you get on the computer and start working. Because I've been mucking about with it, doing it freehand, and things just disappear. And
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. The first thing that I did, obviously the first thing that I did was try to do something, and then I realized that I haven't used CAD in so long that I should probably have somebody teach me how to do those things. And so Autodesk provide their own tutorials for Fusion 360, but of course there's hundreds and hundreds of tutorial people on YouTube. So
yeah, I've looked at a few of those as well. But
what I would do is find a YouTuber that does a lot of Fusion 360 videos, like that's their thing, is Fusion 360 tutorials, and then most of them will basically get you from start to finish in one video designing a specific thing, right? So we're going to design a whiskey bottle, and he'll say, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And so you can follow along, pause the video, do what he says to do, keep watching the video, pause, do what he says.
What I did was I put the two screens up, I put the YouTube up and the 360, and he was doing a glass spectacle case, and I was trying to do the same thing, but it's just
yeah, don't try to do it in real time.
My monitor wasn't big. I need to get a bigger monitor so I could.
Well, I've got a big monitor, but I've got poor eyes, so what I just do is have my YouTube video in one window, and then I switch back to my Fusion, and then I switch back to the YouTube. And that's why I was saying, don't try to do it in real time. I did that once. I was already somewhat familiar with how various things work, and I tried to follow it in real time with the guy, but he was still going just a little bit too fast, and so I would constantly having to rewind. And so instead of doing that, then I watched the video and then pause it right after he says, choose the rectangle tool. And then I would choose the rectangle tool, and then I'd go back to the video and play it. And he'd say, put your first point here. And I would pause the video and go put my first point. So it was literally that broken up into steps. But it helped me learn a lot of stuff.
I think that's where I went wrong, because where you're saying put your first point here, I'm trying to do that and I wasn't putting it in the right place, and the things, I wasn't getting the straight lines when I should have get straight lines. I was getting circular lines, and that is. So I'll give up for.
You'll get there. Just keep doing it.
No, just keep trying.
Yeah,
that's it. What I did with
I enjoy it.
What I did with the Libre software, their initial tutorial, you can get it as a PDF. You download it as a PDF, and that was a lot easier to have that on your computer and the software up, and then you can just alt tab back and forward between the two, and you can read the PDF and do the work, and then read the PDF and do the work. And that worked for me. That worked really well.
I'll be quite honest, I got quite a few. I got Fusion 360, I got FreeCAD, I got Simplifier 3D.
Yeah, that might be your problem right there. Just pick one.
No, these are all free, so I've got them all down, and then I should work through which one is the best one to use. I haven't used any. I only used the 360.
They're all good, right? They're all going to do what you need them to do, most likely. And until you start engineering for SpaceX, those programs are all going to do what you need them to do. So pick one, forget about the other ones, learn how that one works. Yeah. And then at some point in the future, you might be able to bring up one of those other ones and say,
if I need them.
Exactly. Just stick with one. So... Just because they're all free doesn't mean you have to use them all.
No, that's right.
Pick one.
They're on the computer, and that's it.
We've come a long way from some guy wearing a fright wig on PBS painting in front of a canvas, huh?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the space bar is the best thing in the world. Watching YouTube videos, just hit space bar, pause. You don't have to hunt and click. You just hit the space bar, switch, now, alt tab, space bar, alt tab, space bar.
That sounds like
brass chassis guys were
race control programs.
What was that, Brian?
I thought these brass chassis old school guys were restricted to slide rules and graph paper.
Yeah, what's up with that,
we still
Dennis?
have those. Don't worry.
Just remember,
I was thinking abacus.
However, just remember, when the power goes out, ours still work.
Right. And not only do I have a slide rule, but I still have a set of calipers that are vernier calipers. Right. You can actually read the vernier scale. Okay. There was a thing on Facebook the other day about how old are you? And somebody was saying, I'm moon landing old. Or somebody was saying, I'm 8-track stereo old. And so I'm slide rule old. I'm logbook old. Maybe even wire recorder, reel-to-reel wire recorder old. How's that?
In Canada, it's a little different. We say we're Maple Leafs Stanley Cup old.
You're not wooden wagon wheel old, are you, Dennis?
Not quite, no.
I don't think anybody here is that old. You should be dead by now if you're. Now, what about wooden race car wheel old?
Even that.
Is there anybody still alive from the last time the Leafs won a Stanley Cup?
Hey, you know what? I'll tell you, I still remember going up for ice cream after they won it.
I guess there's your answer. So well, John is what, 90?
I met a lot of the guys on that team too. They were, a lot of them just didn't make it to the next one either, like Johnny Bauer and oh God.
All right, sounds like we're ready for a new topic.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that I was suggested a while ago, I think Ryan suggested this one in his long list that he gave me a while ago. What is the first thing a new hobbyist should buy after their first slot car racing kit? What's the first thing they should buy? And go.
Something to drink.
Something to drink, so you can drink and drive. Yeah.
A present for your wife.
Oh yeah, there you go. Got to keep the house happy. Any other actual suggestions?
Well, it's either a better controller or it's a tire machine.
or better power supply.
Better power.
Yeah,
I was gonna say a
adjustable.
power supply. Yeah.
Adjustable power supply,
Oh,
adjustable controller,
true.
tire chewing machine.
In my case, it was track.
What was that?
Sorry.
In my case, it was more track.
More track.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go off of that and say yes, more track, but not more standard track.
Correct.
Get a set or two to get, you know, cars and track, but then buy different radius turns and different length straights, because your sets are all going to have the same radius. The tracks are going to be super boring and repetitive.
What about a table? Because, you know, when you first begin, of course, it goes on the floor, and that has its own hazards to the cars and the track. What about a table of some sort, or use a table that you may have, like a ping pong table or something like that, just to elevate the track to, and it will run so much better without any sort of detritus getting involved in your.
You always buy a test block.
A test block, there you go, a setup block. Something
You see
to
that?
make sure that the car is square.
You see it?
I mean, yeah, we can see it.
So,
Oh, that's like a rolling road.
yeah. You put the cut, and you got the wires, and you can connect your controller to it, and
Hold it up in front of your face.
Right up. If you can hold it, there you go.
There you go.
Okay,
Oh, yeah. It's a nice one.
that looks like it's almost a dynamometer of some sort as well.
I like the carbon fiber finish.
pulled out for K and something. I can't remember what they sell the chassis jigs as well. It's a good little toy. I haven't used it yet. I only tried it once.
Yeah, now we're definitely getting beyond what would be the first thing.
Yeah. You got your controller.
A screwdriver. A proper set of small screwdrivers.
Good
And that was
quality
kind of the
ones,
story-
right? Go
Yeah.
to
That
the
was-
electronic stores or somewhere like that and get good
Yeah, I've
quality
got
stuff.
those as well. Look,
Yep,
screwdrivers.
exactly, just like that. Yep, small
That-
flat heads, small Phillips heads, good
Yeah, that was
qualities.
kind of the spirit of the question, you know, a good set of screwdrivers, a soldering iron, controllers,
Soldering iron,
tire razor, things like that. You know, what's the first thing a new guy's really gonna need? That was kind of the spirit of that question when I posed it.
Depending
to
on
them.
what the new guy wants to do, of course. I mean, if he's a new guy who wants to just play on his home track, yeah, more track and a better power supply. If he's a guy who's new guy and he wants to go racing, then the controller and the tire machine make more sense.
Yeah, if you're a home racer, you know, racing with family and friends on your Skeletric or Ninco or Carrera track or whatever, then definitely screwdrivers. I would agree with soldering iron, because eventually a wire is gonna come loose that you're gonna need to resolder to the motor or to the guide or something. Or if you're digital, you know, they've got lots of wires to solder when you're digital. And so yeah, screwdrivers, soldering iron.
While you're busy with screwdrivers and things, a decent hex wrench for both the 2mm screws that are on slotted and others, and the 50 thousandths size that's on NSRs and thunder slots and things like that. A decent one of those, so you don't have to use the silly little L wrenches that come underneath some of the cars.
Yeah, those do in a pinch.
That will
but-
save you. Yeah, that'll save you a lot of frustration over a period of time. They're worth every cent you spend.
Yeah, one of the first tools I got, aside from the ones we mentioned, was the torque slotted hex driver with the little clicky torque thing on there, so I didn't overdrive my set screws.
But even if you're starting out with a Carrera set or a Skeletric set, yeah, a good set of screwdrivers is actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
I bought a good set off of Slot Car Corner.
Good set of screwdrivers from Slot Car Corner.
They have a
Yeah.
nice range of tools.
Oh yeah, those are nice.
Very similar to the Huddy tools, or the Hoodie tools, with their own name on them. The black ones,
That's right.
very nice.
That's what I've got.
Yeah, those ones. Mhm. they're very nice. The quality of the tips is extremely good as well.
Yeah, I bought 2 sets, one for the toolbox and one for the workshop.
There you go. Yeah, and a slot box. I mean, if you're racing with a group, you know, if you're going track to track, then you want a box that'll hold your necessities. I'll go ahead and just go over my slot box and what's in it. So I have a fancy wooden slot box, but you don't have to get a fancy wooden slot box. You can go to the fishing tackle aisle of any department store that's got fishing tackle. There's a couple of nice ones that are basically, you know, tall boxes with a front that folds out, and it's got like containers for all the parts, for all your tackle. But the nice thing is you can remove a couple of those and put little cardboard in to hold your cars, and just keep one for the parts that you need. And then you've got the top section that'll hold your controller and bottles and things like that.
Yeah. I've got the metal toolbox.
Metal tool, yeah. There's the metal ones.
The 3 drawers. I've got 21 cars in the drawers.
Yep.
You know the shell cams I've told you about. I took the little plastic out and put those in, so the cars sit on them when they keep the wheels up. And you've got the top for the tools, and I've got the bottom one for the controllers and the bits of wire and whatever.
Yep.
The thing is, it's getting too heavy to carry about now.
Yeah. So some of the things that I have in the slot car box, other than controllers and cars, is set of screwdrivers. I've got a scale to help, you know, make sure that the car is not overweight, or you know, the weight that I'm putting into the car is not too much or whatever. I might have a set of spare tires. I'll have, you know, pens and things, markers to mark things with. I've got a little teeny container, because my slot box isn't the fishing tackle one, but I've got a nice little parts container that has stuff in there: spare screws, spare magnets, spare guides, spare guide braid. I don't have a portable soldering iron, because the one that I got didn't really do a very good job of being a portable soldering iron. But if you can do a portable soldering iron, or a regular one that fits in, and you're going to places with somewhere to plug it in, a soldering iron is a good thing to have. Lubricants, glues, you know, if you're using tire prep, you know, your tire prep stuff. If you're using braid prep, your braid prep stuff. You know, basically all the things that your slot car club allows and uses, you should probably have some in your slot box if you can find a place to fit it. Sometimes you can't get the thing that you need into your slot box, but you can put that stuff into another container. Like I got needle oiler bottles from Amazon, empty bottles that I then put the oil into so it would fit in my slot box. Go ahead.
This gadget the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, or whatever, it's a car balancer. It's got a little level in it, and you can balance the car, make sure it's all balanced up right. You see it?
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. How important is that?
Put the car on. It's got a rod down the center of it that allows you to balance whether the car's balanced weight-wise left to right.
That's a thing.
Really neat.
And then turn it sideways, and you can figure out where the
car
front
is
to rear weight distribution is.
I mean, that's what I have in my slot box. Anybody else? You pretty much covered it.
We're coming up to the festive season, and sometimes the crackers, when you're having Christmas lunch or dinner, sometimes the crackers have tiny little tool sets in them. So I always grab those little tools that nobody else wants and keep hold of them, because they do come in handy sometimes. Very small screwdrivers and things.
You've got some pretty posh crackers there.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, I'm lucky if I get a plastic whistle.
Hey, those
I was going to say,
are pretty good.
I've never heard of getting anything like that in our lot.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Must be a British thing. But yes, nobody ever picks them up at the end of the meal, so I just grab them.
For some reason, part of the British tradition at Christmas is to include explosives. I don't know why.
Leo, what have I just missed?
Oh, Martin.
What's happened?
You missed the Christmas crackers.
I'm late again. I was just saying that we're coming up to the festive season, And when you're all around the table having lunch, and there are crackers, quite often the crackers have little toolkits in them. And so you get sort of tiny little screwdrivers and bits and pieces like that, which are quite handy sometimes. So if you grab them, nobody else wants them. So after the meal's finished and everyone's going away, grab all the toolkits and things.
Now, I don't know about you, Martin, but we don't have crackers that are that posh. I was just saying, you know, if I'm lucky, I get a plastic whistle.
Oh no, we get Bentley keys and everything in ours.
I say the ones in Australia, I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, he gets a Bentley key. He doesn't get the Bentley, he just gets the key, right?
Yeah, my daughter works for them, so I do get that sort of crap. No, we get the toolkits and you know, the measuring tape that's handy to keep in the glove compartment of the car, and yeah.
Well, you know what? We're poor here in the colonies.
Yeah, it takes a while. You still think gingham's a big thing, don't you? I'll have 2 yards of gingham, please.
Whoa, you mean it isn't?
No, we're on houndstooth these days. No, Leo, I thought it was going to be a tale about a scar on your nose.
I had an altercation with a cat.
Oh my goodness.
So it has ripped my nose. So I'll be scarred for life, I think.
It's a dueling scar. Be a good story behind that.
Yeah.
I want to show you I had an altercation with
the pub. Sorry?
I had an altercation with a dog today on my bicycle, but I won't show you the scar because it's on my arse. I came off my bike quite fast today because a bloody dog ran in front of me.
Right.
Just say it was a lion or a tiger or something.
Yeah, that's a good one, Greg.
Hold on. Sorry, I've got Leo figured out. Cat is a euphemism for something, and I don't even want to go there.
Hey, this is a family show.
Yeah, I'll next time anyone asks me, I'll tell them I'm into line taming or something.
I was going to say, or Leo, if you're at this side of the pond, that's a normal hockey face, man.
All right, I'm looking through my topic list. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to that last one, or?
Tools.
Okay, I'm going to bring up another.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to bring up a question from 2 weeks ago, but I'll wait till the end for that.
No, go ahead.
We were talking about not using naphtha on tyres and different ways of prepping tyres between oiling, and particularly with the splits we were experiencing with NSR tyres about 2 years ago. It sort of went, all of us experienced that who used them. So what was the actual solution? I misunderstood it. I thought it said washing up soap, you know, like dish soap to clean the tyres.
That was one of the things. There's a couple of ways. I mean, if you're trying to soften the tire, or if you're just trying to lubricate while you're grinding, or while you got the tire on the machine, I guess water or dish soap or simple green or something like that works. But what we found was when you were trying to polish them afterwards and you were using naphtha or benzene, what you guys call benzene or heptane, that it was too strong and it was splitting then. Excuse me. My solution was to find the fire starter liquid that is used for charcoal barbecues. The real cheap stuff that you get at the department store or
the really oily
hardware
stuff,
store, and it's oily stuff, and that actually works very well. So that was my solution to that. You know, a soap actually will clean the tire really nicely, but I don't know that it physically makes a big difference to a rubber tire, to the surface, or that it softens it any at all.
You can always use one of these little gadgets.
What is that?
Yeah, I got a really nice little one of those off SV Works in Denmark, but unfortunately I broke it, so I made my own one. Is that a Wasp one?
It's a true.
It's from Wasp.
True something.
Yeah, he sort of stopped making them. Because you got the oil bath as well in that one, haven't you?
This is for the oil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice 3D printed job, that. Yeah,
I've
that
got a
was
few
my
bits
question.
of it.
So thanks for the answer there, guys.
Okay.
Okay, so I will.
Sorry, Martin, were you getting splitting where you were getting splitting during the truing process or during the softening process, or what was your concern with the splitting?
Well, I just over time it was it's something we would do, and typically we'd give them a quick rub with naphtha between heats if they were picking up a lot of dust, or perhaps we'd oil them if they were drying out between heats. Just a tiny, 2 spots, a 3 and 1 or something. But something we were doing in the process over time, we were starting to see that split exaggerate really quickly.
And you haven't seen that in a while though now, right?
No, they changed the manufacturing process slightly, didn't they? Because
that was, yeah,
they were banking them too cold, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, I think that was one of the bigger issues. So not so much you were doing as opposed what they were doing.
Right. So as a manufacturing default, we were slightly making worse then.
They had some, yeah, there was certainly some issues a year and a half back, 2 years back, something like that.
Yeah, kept us busy on the internet, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's always not a bad idea to turn the rubber tires inside out initially and give the insides a good scrub with a toothbrush and some washing up liquid. That'll remove any mold release that could be on the tire. So, sorry. So when you glue them on, the glue holds a little bit better, and there was some suspicion that some of the glues reacted with the release agent and did cause some splitting.
Yeah,
I
true.
can't
That I
attest
found
to
as well.
but
Some
I've
of the
heard
groups
that.
were doing it.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, yeah. Okay, well, thanks for that, Chris. That makes sense too.
Yeah, I mean, but recently in the last year or so, I've probably glued up and I don't know how many, dozens and dozens of sets of rubber tires, and I haven't had an issue like for quite some while. So
yeah, me neither. And I was getting it both on NSR and slotted tires. Worse on NSR, but I did get it on some slotted tires as well.
Yes, I saw a few Thunder slots as well.
Yeah. So I haven't had the problem with Thunder slot. The
exactly.
Thunder slot moldings are a little different in that they seem to me very nice.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, although I did have someone call into the store the other day with a set of Thunder slots where where you get like that little dimple on the side of the tire.
It's almost like a sprue mark.
Yeah, where the injector is, and on this particular tire there was a hole all the way through, right there.
Wow.
He put the tire on and he ground it true and he used it. It worked fine, but it had a hole right the way through. You
Wow.
could see the rim from the outside. It's kind of weird.
Petrucci, are you talking to us? Because your microphone is currently muted. I'll assume not then. I mean, I can dig into my topic list, but it sounds like we've got lots of interesting things to talk about. Does anybody have any other questions about printing or tire truing or tools or
anything?
Well, Greg, I can see the sign, your start gantry behind you.
Oh, yeah.
Rainier Raceway, yeah?
Yeah.
You helped me in the quiz the other day. I'm on that Facebook quiz, that stupid little quiz that pops up. What's the highest mountain in Northwest United States? Mount Rainier. That's right behind Greg's house.
And you got that one?
I got it.
Awesome.
I think I won the round on the basis of that.
Woohoo!
So somebody put Mount Shasta, and it's like, no, I know it's Rainier.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's an old picture. I just realized because that's my old foam core with the printed thing on there. But now I have one of those laser cut gantries. It's got it looks like an actual steel gantry on there with the start lights and everything in there. I guess I need to get another picture once I clean all the crap off of my track.
I see you got the standard Ikea tire cleaner there too.
Yeah. The
Good
sticky
value for
tape.
99 cents, those things, huh?
Yep, I get mine from Costco. Big pack of 5 of them for like $5 or
$5 or
something like that.
something.
Yep.
Yeah. It's Ikea are our local sellers.
Yep.
I just wish they would make one of those lint rollers that works like a paint roller, where the handle is at 90 degrees to the sticky stuff,
Yeah.
because then it makes it so much easier to use that kind of same sticky roller to clean the track.
Yeah.
Right? I did find one like that, but it has that super sticky silicone kind of
Oh, yeah.
that pink
Yeah.
silicone sticky coating, and that's great, except it pulls all the wood filler out of all the holes on my painted track, right?
It also pulls rubber up.
Yeah, and it pulls some of the rubber up, so it's actually a little too sticky. But yeah, I'm still looking for something like that. There
Sounds
was
like a
once.
good project for somebody with a CAD program and a 3D printer.
Yeah, agreed.
Just pop the tape off and stick it on another holder. Yeah.
There was at one stage a you could get them in the hardware store in the painting aisle, that there was a 12-inch wide sticky thing like those lint rollers that fitted on a paint roller for cleaning a wall and things. But I used to use those and they were great, and then they just stopped making them. I don't know why.
Probably because those pink things came out and people stopped buying them for that purpose. Not enough slot car users. Slot car track people buying them for that use.
So what have you been building, Dennis? You got any new builds? What's your latest build? What's going on?
Well, unfortunately, 837 and 838 went off to their new owner last night, so I don't have them here. I've been building 1/24 scale retro cars again. I don't know if I even took photographs of them.
I was going to say, if you took any pictures, feel free to share.
Yeah, I'll check while I'm talking, but I've been trying some new ideas in 1/24 scale, just to make cars that are would make frames that have a different concept. Yes, I do have it. I do. There it is. All right. So where are we? There we go. Share a screen. Oh, share the screen. Oh, can you undisable my sheet screen sharing, please?
I thought it was.
Oh,
Oh, apparently I'm the host, so I can do it no matter what. Go ahead and try.
That looks better. All right, can you see those?
Yep.
All right, so these are two 1/24 scale retro chassis for retro Can-Am, one for flat track use, one for the king tracks or the big bank tracks. The one on the right is the bank track one, the one on the left is the flat track one. The big differences being the weight and the rail construction. But the idea behind both of these is that they have very, very little body movement. These cars all use vacuum formed Lexan bodies. And we, for years, have had little hinged pans on the side that allow the body to move around. And we found as the tracks got smoother and the tires got better, that we just didn't need all that body movement. So these ones effectively have basically no body movement at all. The body is mounted through little holes and pins stuck through the body into these tubes. Can you see my cursor moving?
Yep.
Okay, so the pins get stuck into those tubes to mount the body on the top. And these outer pan sections are soldered solid to the rails at the front. And they're loose at the back, but they have this little this piece of wire that goes into a square tube just to hold the back up and to decouple the back end of that pan from the back of the chassis, so that you can still get the twist that you need and the flexibility in the chassis. So the king track car, or the bank track car, the one on the right hand side, that chassis weighs 46 grams, I think, as it stands. Not with the front tires on, but as it stands. It has 4 steel rails on each side of 047 wire, and then it has this tuning fork assembly down the middle that's out of 062 wire, and that's basically to give it stiffness in bending. So that, imagine as that car's going through, the car would be going through a big bank turn, and the centrifugal force that would be pushing the car down into the banking. These center rails will strengthen the car for that kind of movement, right? Whereas they do very little to the twisting movement that you get as you go into the tighter turns that have a lot of banking on them. The flat track car on the left-hand side has an 062 steel rail, and then on the outside of it, two 062 bronze brazing rod rails. And that gives you a softer, more dampened movement to the flex of the car. And then these little pieces that are inside the cutouts of the pans are actually hinged on a piece of 032 wire that runs all the way from the front to the back, and their movement is controlled by this cross pin inside a little piece of square tubing. So they can basically just rattle up and down a little, and that provides you weight without the weight affecting the body very much, and it provides a good place to put extra lead weight if you need it. And those cars actually work really, really nicely on a good flat track. As long as the track's pretty smooth, anything that has lots of bumps and things, they may not be as good. But yeah, so Chris, that's what I've been doing.
So Dennis,
your torsion bars are not soldered into the brass tubes on the back of the pans?
These
on the flat track car?
The brass tubes at the back.
No. The brass tubes that are supporting your torsion bars running along the chassis?
There's no torsion bars.
Well, your two bars that are acting as controlling your little weights?
Yeah, the wire is not soldered inside
on the
those.
back
No.
one. Okay, yep.
So these little weights actually hinge quite freely on that 032 wire, and then that movement up and down is controlled by the cross piece.
Yep.
So Dennis, would this same concept work for a hard body car, or is this simply mostly engineered for a vac body car?
I think they're engineered for vac body car. I think for a hard body car, again, it may depend on the track and the tires that you're using. But I would think there may not be quite enough movement. A lot of my 1/32 scale hard bodies nowadays don't have hinged body mounts, but they have flexing body mounts, and they have a bit more flex than these ones do. So it's possible. I haven't tried it, but yeah, it's possible they would work. Anyway,
that's interesting, because we were talking about body movement last time, and how Chris said that a little is so much better than
a little is a lot better than
right,
too much.
Yeah. Right, and here you've gone to like basically zero.
Well, there's not really, and the other thing that's important on the bodies that Den is using weigh like 1/10 of a gram. I'm exaggerating, but they weigh nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's 10,000 thick Lexan. They only weigh, I think they weigh maybe 4 grams painted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so Chris, what you're saying is that this may not work as well for a hard-bodied car then?
No, both of the premise. I mean, it's just different design technologies for different types of tracks.
Right. I mean, if you're talking 1/32 scale hard bodies, then the first thing that you're talking rubber or silicone or urethane tires, and that affects the chassis design immediately. These things are built for foam tire work, where you've got massive amount of grip, right? And a lot of the time you're trying to get rid of some grip rather than anything else.
Yeah, and the other thing that's important is as well as the grip of a foam tire with spray glue or whatever, you've got a tremendous amount of compression in the tire.
Yeah.
So when the car goes around a corner, the outside rear tire loads and probably compresses to half its diameter of the tread diameter as it's going around a corner. So that acts as sort of a suspension, if you will, where in our cars, everything we run is it's a hard tire. So the chassis has to work because you're not going to get much compression in the tire. So there are folks like Dennis and myself and lots of other guys that use the air hubs with sponge inserts to try and recreate some of the good characteristics of a sponge tire on a slot car. But yes, both of those will work with variations on a hard body slot car. The chassis will probably have to be a little heavier because you've got a 15 to a 20, whatever weight your body is. So you put a heavy body on a chassis like that, and it's going to raise the center of gravity and do a bunch of other things. So you find the hard body 24 scale cars will have, I mean, they may look a lot like that, but you'll see the guys just jamming them up with lead everywhere they can put lead on.
Yeah, these cars, when they're ready to run, the flat track car ready to run will weigh total about, probably in race form, probably about 110 to 115 grams. The bank track chassis in race form under 100. And on our flat track where we run hard body scratch built cars, anything under 150 doesn't work, right? And most of them are around 170 to 180, and some of them are even over 200 grams.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's got its big ass heavy body on it, right?
Right. Yeah, so horses for courses, John. It's you know, and then if you run like the open cars, the wing cars with air control and all the rest of the stuff, they weigh nothing,
Yeah.
zero.
They're down to 30, 40 grams less.
Yeah. And that's with
basically just a motor, right? I mean,
Well, it's a motor and a set of wheels and a gear at the back, and then this funny little framework to hold the guide at the front and to mount the body on.
Yeah.
It's the skeleton around the edges.
well, those look really nice work, Dennis. Very, very nice work.
Thank you. And there's another 4 on the jig now, getting another order out the way.
Well, we look forward to seeing that.
How's your little Polycar Ferrari that you did? Do you like that?
Which one do you?
Didn't you do? You just rebuilt the 312B, did you not?
Oh, I bought one, but I haven't done the repaint on it. I have the regular P4 Polycar, and then I bought a second one so that I can melt take the paint and the decals off and paint it up in the green David Piper colors from the Kyalami 9-hour, because I remember seeing that car run there. But that's waiting. I did get this week 2 of the Polycar Lotus 72s, the Dave Charlton, the Sasol, the white and red car, and the Eddie Kaizen, the metallic blue embassy car. Both beautifully done, but Polycar have gone and screwed us, because for the new embassy Lotus 72, it has a different tire and a different wheel from all the other Lotus 72s and all the other Polycar F1s. And I guess they went to something that was more scale, so it's because it's a smaller wheel with a bigger tire. But I didn't know that, and I bought all the pieces that I needed to do the upgrade, so that it looks so that it has the same as everything else. And so now I've got a car without any inserts, because the new wheels inserts are way too small to fit into the old wheels. Unfortunately, it's just an insert change, so it's not a big deal.
But didn't I see you'd done the 312B Formula One car, Polycar?
I did one of those a while back, yes, and I actually wrote a little review on Home Racing World about it, because I was kind of disappointed with the car as the way that it came. So I put something out there just to tell people about what I'd found. A couple of things. The first, once again, as always, absolutely gorgeous car. And once I got it running, really nice. But the first problem that I found was that the front axle is like probably 5 millimeters too short. The wheels only just fit on the end of the axle, and you really need a little bit more. They used a 49 millimeter axle instead of using like a 53 or whatever the next size up is. So I had to change the axle, and then the motor pod itself, it has that like that little tongue along the front of the motor pod where it attaches to the chassis, and the deformation from the molding process had nosed that down so that the whole chassis was standing up in the middle. I mean, you could just about pass another 312 underneath it through the middle of the car. It was on 4 wheels, but it had this horrible attitude in the middle of the car. So I had to strip the whole thing down, and rather than flatten the chassis, I had to flatten the pod using the same process that we always use to flatten chassis. Put it down on a piece of steel and use magnets to get everything straight, and then pour boiling water all over it and let it stand in boiling water and hot water for a couple of hours. But once that was done and reassembled, then the exhaust systems at the back needed to be, the front end of the exhaust system where it tucks in under the body needed to be glued up because they were dragging on the track. The mounting point at the front is not terribly good. But once I'd got that done, it's absolutely sweet. What a lovely little car. Yeah. It really runs nice.
I just finished one for someone, and I basically had to take every motor piece, the valve covers, everything off. I got a new spare parts bag from Pendle with new exhausts and new bits and pieces, and but I found a few little things to do on it. Actually, I might even have. Can I share? Am I okay to do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just asking if it's.
Please. It should be enabled.
Yeah, well, just a couple little things that I found for Dennis.
Okay. I'm all for just a what's on your bench topic here. What's on your bench? Show us, Chris.
You see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
What I found, Dennis, was yes, the front axle was a bit too short. So, and also the positioning of the wires were such that I used a center ground axle to give me a little more room for the wire.
Good idea.
But better than that, I cut underneath where the wires go through to the front. I cut 2 little pieces of 1/8 OD tubing, styrene tubing.
Yeah.
Glued those to the floor of the chassis. Then I ran my wires through there. So that completely eliminates them rising up and causing friction and fouling on the front axle. Yeah. And I did the same as you. I had to straighten out the tongue that holds the motor pod to the front of the chassis. And then I used a couple of silicone washers in between.
I see them.
And found some place for lead up there. Hang on.
Yeah, I see all the lead.
I'll see if I can.
Fortunately, on my track, they don't seem to need it.
Yeah, no, well, this was.
And I usually change out the rear tires straight away. There's a 1219 F22 tire that I use.
Yeah. Is that up or no?
Yeah.
There was some space for little slabs of lead along the motor. I also replaced the wheels with the Polycar wheels. These are done with some urethanes for the guy who wanted one of your
Okay,
things.
so you put the aluminum wheels on. Mhm.
But one of I'm sure you did this as well, but one of the most important things.
Oh, I don't always do the most important things, so don't be sure of anything.
Is that showing up?
Yeah.
One of the things for anybody when you're building, this is just like a general slot car thing. To locate the rear axle, they use a little axle stopper on these things, and a lot of angle winders use axle stoppers and stuff like that. One of the things you can, or certainly a great thing to do, is put some spacers in this axle stopper. Okay, can you see my pointer?
Yeah.
This axle stopper, when you get the cars, and a lot of 32nd scale cars, the axle stopper is flush right up against this bushing face.
Mm-hmm.
So Dennis knows this, but for anyone who doesn't know it, when you have something that's rotating, which is the stopper, running against something that's not rotating, the face of the bushing, you create a lot of friction. So if you use two thin small spacers between the rotating face and the non-rotating face, they act as thrust washers, which greatly reduce the friction in the back end. So you can just barely see on this side, just between the little final drive spur gear, there's a couple of little tiny, there are 5,000 thick spacers in there. And those really help reduce the friction as well. So I've used those on the back axle here. I've also used them on this sort of intermediary idler gear program.
Yeah, they put a big spacer behind that idler gear or the intermediate gear, and they're way too big. I like to change those out for much smaller ones.
Yeah, way too big, and they're only finished one side. So one side sort of got a bevel on the outside edge. The inside's all rough cut, and
yeah, because they're etched. They're chemically etched.
Yeah. I also did one more. I also did, as Dennis would think I would do, I also did a fair bit of detail painting on the back end here, so, which is something I always have to do.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But
Those look super cool.
Yeah, I had to, the pipes were new because like yours, my pipes were, not only did the front bits drag on the track, but they weren't lined up, and the inside pipes were at 45 degrees, just little stuff that would drive me nuts. But
yeah,
anyway, did a lot of.
I seem to remember I also heated and straightened the rear wing because it had a kind of an asymmetric anhedral to it.
Well, mine does slightly, but equally on both sides. So
okay,
sort of
no, mine wasn't. Mine was not symmetrical, so I straightened that up. But that was hairdryer type heat more than anything else.
With a little bit of drop, and I also used.
So while you're looking, I'm amazed at even aesthetically how much work the car needed once you got it.
Well, that's all up to the end user.
Yeah.
I did, the tires that come with it are fairly narrow. They're too narrow for my way of thinking. So I use some slotted tires that come, you can buy them. They're replacement tires for the Alpha T333. They were a little wider and a little bit taller, so it allowed me to sort of put a bit of a profile on the tire, which looked better. By the time I got them on and trued them, they were a little bit taller, which was nice. But I used the Molotow chrome pen on the suspension bits and the arms and stuff like that. And to be really anal, which is me and
unlike you,
yeah. And Dennis will like this. Where are we here?
By the way, I really like the Molotov stuff. It gives a wonderful finish.
Spectacular. Is that up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Whoever painted Jackie X's face is just like,
Yeah.
I cannot paint eyeballs and noses and stuff, and it just looks, every time I look at the bloody car, all I can see is these two little black eyeballs staring out at me. So I got a little bit of Tamiya smoke paint, just sort of clear smoke, and gave Jackie's visor a couple of coats with that.
That was a good idea.
And the little valve covers have, they have actually little holes in them. So I found some little wire and I put spark plug leads in the.
You have too much time on your hands. I've got to send you some of the work that I've got here and get you to help me out.
Yeah. So, all around, but with all the stuff that went into it, it is an unbelievably good running car. It really is. I should have kept it. I shouldn't have given it away.
Did you put foam under the tires at the back or not?
No, I didn't bother on this because the Polycar wheels, the ridge it's got a good inside step on it. So I wasn't sure how much I could take out of the center of the raised step in the Polycar wheels without making them.
You can go all the way down to the same diameter as the outside
wheel. So no, I left the urethanes as it is. They're a little bit beefier than what comes on the car, which again looks, better than.
They do look a little small on the car.
But
well, Chris, now that you've gone to school on what needs to be done, you can just do one for yourself and fix the rear wing for yourself as well.
Yeah, I would probably, to tell you the truth, a couple of places have all the they have a body kit unpainted, and they have things that drive me nuts on this. When they tampoed the roundels, they didn't put it on thick enough so you can see the red bleed from the rivet heads where behind the number 2. So again, it's not for everyone, but that drives me insane. So I could have gone with a brush and painted all the rivet heads white to make the roundel nice, but then it doesn't match up, and so it's just the way it is. But if I was going to do one, I would buy the motor, all the body kits and bits, and start from scratch and build one. I took every piece of the car you see. I took the injectors out, I took the manifolds out, the exhaust, I took the mirrors off, I took the wings off, the whole car was taken apart piece by piece by piece because it wasn't straight, it didn't fit, and rebuilt it so it's nice and flat and square and smooth. And there you go. That's my screen sharing for the day.
Did it have the right number of rivets?
I have no idea. Seeing the red bodywork shining through the roundels put me off enough. I wasn't going to count anything at that point.
Chris, how do you remove and reattach the mirrors?
Sorry?
How do you remove and reattach your mirrors?
I just use a Dremel with a little round grinding bit and just go inside and grind off the little
the blob. Yeah.
Yeah, they stick them in, and then they use just a
soldering iron or something,
iron to melt the blobs. So I just ground off the blobs, took the mirrors out, sanded them all down, and then used the Molotov chrome pan on them and stuck them back in.
Well, you did a marvelous job, Chris. Marvelous.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And now it's gone away.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, as it should. I mean, those rivets alone. I mean, you.
Well, no, that was if the roundels had been covering the rivet heads and all white, I probably would have kept it. But I look at the picture of it and I see that, and it's just I can't. It's got to go.
Well, perhaps for the next one you could build a pair of them, and if it turns out really well, one goes and one stays.
Well, I'll just buy the white body kits and spray. I've got all the decals, so I'll just spray them and I'll be happier.
which is all, and as per your description, that's basically what you did with this car.
Yeah, but I tell you, with a little work, and if you know what to do on these things, they are spectacular runners. I would love to put some rubber, get rid of the rock hard urethanes and put some nice rubber tires on the back.
Awesome.
What would you run the car against? Because I mean, it's rather unique with the kind of drivetrain it has.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's basically, I mean, the drivetrain it ends up being roughly a 3-to-1 ratio final drive at the end of the day. You can buy a couple of little bits and pieces with slightly different gear ratios, but with the motor it has, I mean, you would run it, I mean, you know, redone fly cars and all the rest of this stuff, NSR, like they all, you know, all can be made to run against each other. So, and you know, there's more and more clubs are having a little bit of like a Polycar series now, or an NSR series. The NSR Formula One cars are easier for most guys to put together, and they're probably a little more robust and stuff like that. So
yeah, people are starting to run all slots against them now in our club.
Yeah, the all slots are great cars once you get those sorted out.
Yeah.
Well, and the reduction gearing looks better than, I guess, the fly reduction gearing that they were using for the Williams that they had.
Oh yeah, no, completely different. You know, the reduction systems are, the guy who helped design these is a guy named Andy Rowland, and Andy is like a real rivet counter as well. So, you know, one of the issues with small F1 cars is how do we get gears and all the rest of the stuff tiny enough back there so you can still encase them in a somewhat scale-looking transaxle and gearbox cover. So this does that. There is no, other than cosmetically, there is no performance advantage to have a bunch of gears and a bunch of things moving, because there's just more friction. So, you know, a basic NSR or an all slot, you know, crown and pinion gear is more efficient than idler gears and all the rest of the stuff. But they certainly look gorgeous. There's no question.
Now, could you use that pod, for example, and retrofit it to, say, like the Scalextric's Lotus 49 to reduce that big sort of, you know, Hewlin gearbox thingy that they put on?
Yeah, you could, but then you have to remodel that whole, like, that's, yes, you could, but now you can rebuild a whole transaxle and transmission cover and stuff like that. And, you know, I got better stuff to do.
I think Andy's producing kits to do just that, isn't he? Or is it for fly?
Oh, maybe.
I know Andy was working on a project. It would just be the motor pod, more or less, and the transax on the back.
Yeah.
So you could get, because the gearbox, the look and the shape of the transmission on a Scalextric's car, for example, I know Andy loses sleep over it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot.
Painfully hurts him.
Yeah, there's guys like you know, David Mitchum and David Lawson and a bunch of guys who would be keen on buying, you know, somewhat scale looking transmission motor cover things. And, you know, a lot of those guys spend a lot of work, and, you know, you get all the little details and all the rest of this stuff. And then you get this honking great big transmission cover out the back, and it you know,
it pains the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the Polycar Formula One Grand Prix at Gaydon, the first two that he held, and David Lawson and some of those guys were there, and very interesting to listen to them talking about, you know, how much more aesthetically pleasing these Polycars are than Scalextric's or Fly or whatever.
Oh yeah, no question whatsoever, and it's all the back end. That's where.
Yeah.
The difference is.
Yeah, I mean, no, credit where credit is due. I mean, Scalextric's did a great job with the 49 and the Eagle. They look great, but yeah, it does look like it has a bit of a tumor in the rear end there.
Yep.
It's not a tumor. It's not. Anybody else working on anything you want to show off?
Well, guys, I'm going to call it a night.
All right. Thanks for coming, Mr. Man.
I'll catch you maybe next week if the time is right.
See you when
Good
you
night,
see you.
everybody.
Thank you for showing us all the stuff you've got. Amazing, and get soldering. Put some burn holes in that thing.
I will. I've got to buy some other bits first before I start.
And get the stainless pins. Stainless pins, Rick.
Stainless, yeah.
Maybe you should use some of those gizmos.
I do use them. It's just that I've got nowhere to race at the moment. We're on shutdown. So until we race, everything's put aside. Anyway,
There's always tinkering.
yeah, I do tinkling as well. I've been tinkling on this little fella.
Oh, wow. How big is the track that he races on?
I bought the kids some presents for Christmas. I've been playing with it. And I got this one here as well. I bought.
Cool.
Oh no.
Fantastic.
You're going to have to make a really big cracker for that.
Keep the kids quiet. Anyway, I'm off for now. I'll see you
Take care,
next
fella.
week. Good night.
Take care.
Nobody has anything they want to talk about or show off?
Well, I was just going to say that he brings up a good point. A week last Monday, I went back and had my first race night for a long time. And it was a crisis, a confidence crisis. I got there, I just couldn't do a thing. I couldn't get my controller dialed in, I couldn't get my tires. And it's not my home club, it's a different club, and the track is quite different. I just had a terrible night. I came bog last, really. And I drove home and I thought, I'll go next week, I'll give it a try, I'll keep going. So I went on Monday and I spun out in one corner when I was trying to set the throttle up. And just as I'm thinking, okay, I need to talk to one of the guys about fine tuning this throttle, one of the racers said on my show, he said, you got no grip on the back end of that. So I sort of put the two and two together and I just took the tires off and they'd just gone hard on me. So I oiled them up, I left them 20 minutes. And I got on WhatsApp to one of the guys, our local guy, Craig, who's the throttle team. And I said, look, on the yellow one, if I turn it back, does that? I was getting punched off the first eighth of an inch of travel of the trigger. And I thought that's why I was spinning out, but it wasn't. It was a combination of that and no grip. So once I got the grip, and then he said, try dropping the number down low on the yellow. So I did. And then I came 4th out of 8. So turned out I got my confidence back. And I said, I can do this stuff. But it's just great to be in a room full of guys shouting abuse and racing cars. Fantastic.
Martin gets his groove back.
Oh, yeah. It's just wonderful to be in a room full of old guys shouting the odds at each other.
And are they locking down again because the pandemic is getting worse everywhere?
No, we in Wales we're okay. We had a 2-week, they call it a circuit break. We closed down for 2 weeks. We came out of it 2 weeks ago. And the idea was to prove that, if you guys calm down a bit, you're going to drop the numbers. And our number dropped below 1 for the first time in a long time. So it seems to work. And we have limited ability to move about. We can meet in groups of up to 15 at social events, club events, like a yoga class or something. But we have to have the windows in the facility have to be open. We all have to wear masks. The first thing we do is we go in and we clean down all the equipment we're going to use. And then we do this, and we're not allowed to use the kitchen, and we have to use one specific toilet that we clean, and there's lots of restrictions. And at the end of the night, we have to clean it down ready for the next users. But it's, people are starting to understand what we need to do, how we need to react. So slowly but surely, we're edging out of it. But we just got some crazy rules for Christmas. Up to 3 families can mix for Christmas. It's just going to send the number rocketing. It's a fop to keep the populace, shut them up, stop them complaining. It's just going to fill the hospitals. Crazy. Yeah. But enough about politics. But yeah, it's just great to be back racing and seeing guys again. We missed it so much.
It's very tempting, but it's pretty bad around here, and so basically it's basically back to the beginning, for us. I mean, even though I would love to be able to say we're all wearing masks and stuff, but even when there's lots of people wearing masks, there's plenty of people not wearing masks and doing stupid things, and the numbers are getting crazy. And I know that some of the guys in my group just aren't religious mask wearers, and so I'm not gonna risk it. And I really would like to go back and race, but I'm not prepared to take that risk.
Well, we all sort of got together and we had a WhatsApp session and we were talking, we were open and honest about how we felt about things and what we were going to do. And everybody's like, I really want to race that much that I will commit to you to be a good guy. I'll behave. And we spaced out and, we didn't stand next to each other talking. We kept 2 yards apart and everybody kept their masks on and we all behaved. And if we made a mistake, we'd sort of pull each other up on it. And, oh, yeah, sorry, mate, yeah. And one guy was having trouble with a mask. So he said, hang on, I'll go out and come back in a minute when I'm okay. So the desire to race is so great that we all decided to play by the rules we'd agreed with the community centre. We had to abide by the rules. They said you can do your function as long as you follow this list of guidelines. And so the youngest member of the club actually, sort of got put forward as our COVID compliance officer, and he did a fantastic job. He really put his heart and soul into it. And he spoke to us all, and he sent us all messages. And we're going to do this, you're going to do that. So it was good. That's how much we wanted to go racing again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't. Although we have guidelines, there's no strict. Nobody's going to come crashing the door down. And all of our tracks are at individuals' houses, not a community building that can impose those kind of restrictions.
Yeah, and things change with the commercial tracks around each state, each county is different. Some are locked down, some are open. In Atlanta, for instance, there's a track there. They have a book at the door and they actually log everybody in and out so that they can, if they need to trace and they do any contact tracing at some point, they know who was in the building at any point in time. One of the local commercial raceways here has one of the racers who owns a company that does this sort of thing. He comes in and he uses one of those atomizer sprayer disinfecting things, and he disinfects the whole place once a week. Sprays everything and fogs everything and so on. The other place doesn't bother. Excuse me. So there's a lot of us that are actually still standing back a little, not going to these places too often. There's a lot of guys wear masks, but then they only wear a mask over their mouth and not over their nose, and or they pull it off while they're sitting at their pit, and then they forget to pull it back on again when they get up, and so it's not worth it at the moment.
Exactly, and it's all those little things that ruins the safety of everything, for everybody. Yeah, and that's basically, I know that even if most of these guys are wearing their mask properly the whole time, there hasn't been everything hasn't been disinfected, and they probably don't wear their mask when they're out shopping or working or other things, and if you're
or you get a guy coming around saying, "Oh, well, I've been tested and I'm negative." Well, I don't know
it's like it doesn't even matter,
so you got tested and you were exposed yesterday, you were tested today, you're turning negative 5 days from now, you're going to be sick, and so am I. No, thank you.
Yep. Anyways, that's a topic.
That's okay. I just want to say to everybody, there are 3 really easy ways to boost your own immune system with everything that's going on. Number 1 is get lots of rest, really important. Number 2, vitamin D, either supplement or go out into the sun for a little while, and move, exercise, because that really gets your lymphatic system pumping, and all 3 of those things can boost your immune system between 65 and 80%. So that should, just as a first line of defense for yourself, and then everything else on top of that will help you get through this.
Copious amounts of tequila help as well.
Yeah, well, sterilization. Yeah, that absolutely.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. Does anybody have any last minute questions, suggestions, topics? Sharing?
Well, just to say to everyone in the US anyway, have a very happy Thanksgiving. Right. Stay safe. I know that we're going to be basically on our own, just my wife and I, and one son and his girlfriend who live close by. The rest of the family are all just doing things at a distance, but I hope that everybody has a good holiday. And once again, thank you. One of the things I'm thankful for is this Zoom meeting. This has been absolutely great.
Okay.
I'm not sure that you guys are all thankful for it when Chris Walker and Dennis Sampson start doing the talking, because we don't stop. But
Leo's putting thumbs up there.
it's been absolutely great. It's been a wonderful thing. It's made such a difference to this time. Thank you, Greg.
We actually just don't do anything until you guys show up, and we just kind of wait. Oh man, where's Dennis?
Yeah,
Where's Chris?
Now, not to rub it in, but Canadians have already gone through Thanksgiving. It went well. You guys will be fine.
Thank you.
All right,
Dennis,
I think that's a good.
I'm the only one who gets shushed via PM on Home Racing World. You guys don't get those messages from Greg?
No.
You talk too much. Well, I think that's a good
Actually,
sign.
Dennis and Chris, I don't know what you guys get out of this, because you guys are telling us stuff the whole time. I get a ton of information out of this. I don't know what you guys get out of it.
Our checks are a lot bigger than you might imagine.
Excellent.
I'll tell you
I printed paper checks this big for them. And
what we get out of this is the satisfaction of knowing that we have helped, even in just a little way, to make other guys enjoy their hobby just that little bit more. And to hear things like what Leo said about the last time, and a couple of other guys, I think it was Ray or Kelly or somebody was saying, Kelly was saying right at the beginning of this call, how much they learn. If that's what we can do, and if that's helping you guys get more out of your hobby, then that's our time well spent. Certainly it's my time well spent, because it's a great hobby. It's kept me alive and kicking for 50-something years. And, I've been playing with slot cars since 1963. And so, I'm just, it's great. And that's all the reward we need. Certainly that's all the reward I need. So, but thank you.
Well, thank you. No,
That's good, because the checks we're sending you are in denominations of foreign currencies that really don't exist.
Yeah, well, Zimbabwean dollars and South African rands probably don't help anybody anymore anywhere. But yeah, okay.
That's all guilders and Deutschmark, isn't it?
I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button. Everybody say bye, happy Thanksgiving,
Bye.
or whatever you're doing.
Good day, guys.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Chris.
Thanksgiving, guys.